Here's Chris Maher, host of FFM93 Live.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of FFM93 Live. And there is a lot to talk about today as the Flyers make it official this morning that John Tortorella will be the newest head coach of the team. There is, again, there's so much to unravel here. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, it seems like there's kind of I wouldn't say it seems like there's people that aren't happy. There seems like there's people that, that might be, might be happy with this. I think one thing with Torts is, I talked about this in the video last night, and I genuinely like it. I really do. Like, it's grown on me, I will say. And we did just find out that Tortorella will be speaking at 2 o'clock Eastern today. So today's show actually will be a little bit longer than usual. I'll be live from 1 o'clock to 3 instead. And again, I'll still be taking callers and things like that. But again, I will be live from 1 to 3 since that press conference is at 2. I will have my live reaction to that once that is live at 2 o'clock on the NBC Philly YouTube page. So, again, look, there's so many different things here to kind of break down. Obviously, as I talked about in the video, I kind of just left it at the week's report and kind of where kind of everything was going from yesterday, and kind of what the contract was going to be. And again, it seems like a lot of people are pretty happy that we got a coach. Carter, we have a coach. But again, like, some people are happy, some people aren't. Obviously there's a lot of different things, but I think just kind of starting out, right, you get the latest updates from a handful of days ago, and we hear that Anthony Sanfilippo from the Crossing Broad has the article basically talking about everything that kind of went on, and that there was different things. He did update it a little bit, and then there are some other things in here that I actually did just see a handful of minutes ago as I started this. But look, like, to me, some of the things in here I wasn't necessarily too sure of. And again, I don't want to harp on Anthony or his reporting. I think he's a good reporter. And I'm not trying to crap on his reporting or anything. I just kind of heard differently. That I know that the Flyers did offer I had heard from a source that the Flyers had offered, or the Flyers actually had, they used the consulting firm, and that was, basically just as like a third eye kind of option. And then there was other talk that Chuck didn't want the hire. I didn't hear that was the case. I heard that it was Chuck's hire, and he was happy with it. He was not upset. And there were other things as well. But look, I think there's a lot that kind of goes on with Tortorella, right? We hear a handful of days, kind of who's in the mix for the Flyers. Is it Trotz? Is it Torts? Like, there's so many different things. Jeffrey, even though I do not like Tort, maybe he has the guts to shake the team up. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, even if he's not the number one option, like, look, again, like, Torts was not my number one option. Okay. And, there are a good amount of things that I would have probably, there's definitely other coaches I would have probably preferred instead of Torts. But look, like, I think for the most part, I think this is fine. Like, Torts, he's a guy that's going to get the team going. He's going to get a lot out of the players. You see the tweet earlier from Cam Atkinson, and you see all these different things. And look, I just look, again, like I said this in the video too, like, you're going to have, like, there's going to be people that don't like this hire, and that's perfectly fine. And there's going to be former players that, don't like this hire. Or there's going to be players now that like this hire. Like, my thing is, I don't really know if much of the former guys really matters. Like, I'd like to think that Torts has probably calmed down a little bit in recent years and probably isn't as fiery as he was with the Rangers, but it doesn't mean he's not still like that. It's not like, he doesn't feel that way or anything like that, right? So my thing is kind of just like again, I like the hire. I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. Just reading the official report here from the Flyers, because the Kevin Weeks report, he did say 4 years, 4 million. So that was kind of ballpark. The official Flyers report, that was tweeted out by the Flyers this morning around about around 9 o'clock this morning. It doesn't say what his contract will be. So I would like to guess that will most likely be confirmed in the press conference today. That's most likely what's going to happen. But this is the official report from the Flyers and NHL.com. The Philadelphia Flyers have named John Tortorella the 23rd head coach in franchise history, according to President of Hockey Operations and General Manager Chuck Fletcher. Chuck said, "I'm very happy to bring in John to be the next head coach and voice behind the bench of the Flyers. John demands the best out of his players every single game. He is a Stanley Cup champion and has a lengthy track record of both regular season and playoff success. During the interview process, we discussed a number of factors that are crucial to bring this team immediate success, and it became clear to me that his vision and style makes the right person to restore a winning environment to our locker room. This is a critical moment for our franchise, and Chuck has made a strong selection in John Tortorella as the next head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers," said Dave Scott, governor of the Flyers. "John embodies the values of this franchise: hard work, grit, and determination, and I'm excited for him to get to work with our team right away. I'm very excited to be joining such a historic and well-respected franchise like the Philadelphia Flyers," said Tortorella. "From my very first conversation with Chuck, I knew it was the right fit for me, and I believe the direction is I believe in the direction this team is heading. Having faced the Flyers for several years, I know firsthand how tough city Philly is to play in, and I look forward to being on the right side of the bench on opening night in such a loyal and passionate crowd of Flyers fans." Tortorella is 63 years old. He's been an NHL head coach for parts of 20 seasons and has a career record of 673 wins, 541 losses, 37 ties, and 132 overtime or shootout losses, and 1,383 regular season games with the Tampa Bay Lightning from 2000 to 2008, New York Rangers from 1999 to 2000, and then 2008 to 2013, the Vancouver Canucks for one season, 2013-14, and the Blue Jackets from 2015 to 2021. So look, there's the whole thing of like, I had kind of said that, Torch doesn't ring. He's got like a short leash, whatever. I mean, he's only had, it says it right there for you. He's only been with these teams, two teams for one season once. It was Rangers 99 and 2000, and then Vancouver in 2013 and 14. And look, he's a good coach. Yes, he did win a cup. That was in 2004. So, everything has kind of changed since then. But again, he was not my first choice. And he was not the kind of guy that I genuinely thought okay, they go out and they get Torts and all of this different stuff. Like, I wasn't thinking that. I was more thinking maybe it's Trotz, maybe it's somebody different. And there were other things too, like, Peter DeBoer, John Tortorella, and Jack Capuano were the finalists for the Flyers. And when you look at those, DeBoer to me would have been very similar to AV. It would have been like a similar kind of thing. There wouldn't have been much that was, it pretty much would have just been the same thing. If I'm being honest with you, he would have helped in some regard in different areas, defensively, but I think Torts probably has a better system. I think there are different things. I know we're still getting some people in here. Again, if anybody has any questions, comments, you can throw them down below and I'll bring them up. Yes, Ryan, Torts did decline the offer. And he did buy the house. He did buy a house in Nashville that was tweeted out. I think look, I didn't think Trotz was going to come here. I kind of felt like more of Trotz would have been, the Flyers gave him a boatload of money is what it seems like. It was like seven plus million for 2 years. And besides they went, outside of that, it's like, I feel like Trotz probably wanted a management role out of anything. And he buys the house in Nashville. I'd like to think that he probably gets a management role in Nashville. I mean, he's from Winnipeg too. His son does have special needs, and he also is in Winnipeg as well. So there's that too. Like, I mean, there's so many different things. Mr. Twister, sorry I'm late. What did I miss? A lot. That's what you missed. You missed a lot. But again, like Torts, I think, I love it. I think Torts is a good coach. I think he can really spark the team. I mean, again, like look, if we're going off of people, and I know some people are worried, like, are there younger Flyers that have to worry about this? I don't think so. Like, I think I'd like to think that, what Torts is going to do is going to come in. He's going to come in. He's going to look at film. He's going to look at all these different things. I feel like he's going to just like, to me, I just feel like he's going to be fine. Like, I'm willing to give the guy a chance. I feel like a lot of people don't like him already and didn't like him on Tuesday night when it was just reported. Like, I feel like at this point, I think they're going to be fine. I honestly, like, I kind of feel like at this point, it's like I'm ready to give him a chance. I'm not ready to kind of just like harp on him or harp on his system or anything like that. Like, I'm just at the point now where I'm like, okay, like, we're hearing all this stuff from former players. We're hearing like, oh, he's not good with younger players and this and that. Like, I think they're gonna be fine. I feel like it's just kind of like everything has just kind of gone wrong the last handful of years, and now everything has just been spiraled. And I'm at the point now where I'm just like, just give the guy a chance. I mean, he if he's excited for the opportunity, and I think it's interesting, not interesting, but also the fact of like, we actually had a guy that was excited to come here. And I'm glad that we have that, because and I know it might sound crazy, and maybe you don't agree with it, but I think it's a good thing that he's excited to come here and to play here. And like, I'm not really nervous about anything in his system or how he'll be with the player. I mean, he's going to be upfront. He'll be honest. He's again, exactly what Mr. Twister said here. I'm interested to see what he does. I 100% agree. I'm interested to see how this plays out. I think he's going to have I kind of feel like he's going to have a good basis of kind of what has to be changed, and the Flyers obviously have to get better defensively. But again, I think Torts is a good hire, and I think there's a lot of different things here that can kind of grow at the same time. And again, if you're just joining, just a couple other things as well. Later on in the show, I have an interview that I actually recorded yesterday with Nick Schultz, who works in the Flyers player development, excuse me, was also on the bench a little bit this year, kind of filled in and was an assistant coach at times. And that was, I believe, in the beginning before the Flyers hired John Torchetti. So again, that was, Nick actually kind of started around December, so he was with the team for a good amount of time. So you will we'll hear from him later on in the show. And again, we also do have some other things as well that we want to talk about. But look, getting back to what I was kind of talking about with Torts, if there are players, right, that people, might be concerned about, if there's a worry for younger players, or if, you have players on Columbus or anything like that kind of didn't necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily play well, but I actually read a tweet earlier of just like younger players that played like their first couple of seasons with Torts, and it seemed like it was okay. Like, it seemed like everybody was kind of fine. But like, again, I think a lot of this is, Torts, I think, is going to help in different areas. I think he's going to be better defensively. I think they're going to have more structure. I'd like to think special teams are different. I'm curious to see what kind of assistant coaches they bring in. I know I did get a comment about this as well. I'm trying to figure out where it is. Yeah, here it is, Ryan. Now we need special teams coaches. Yes, Ryan, we do. Again, I'm very curious to see, because some of the guys that I had kind of thought that maybe the Flyers could hire them as an assistant coach. They all kind of have been in the loop of getting a head coach like Luke Richardson, for example. I thought would have been a good hire as an assistant coach for the defense. I believe he also did get a hire in Chicago. I know we noticed we still have a couple more people joining in here as well. Again, if anybody wants to join in, or excuse me, not join in, throw a comment down below or anything like that. Again, really do appreciate it. Also, I wanted to bring this up here from Jeffrey. He said he was a diehard fan and a Claude Giroux fan from Denver, Colorado. He's not an Avs fan. Also left a $5 donation. Jeffrey, I really do appreciate it. Again, I honestly forgot that StreamYard even did the donations or anything like that. So that really does mean a lot to me. I do appreciate it. Jeffrey, if you are still watching, I did want to mention that as well. I know I did in the comments, but that deserves to get mentioned in the show as well. I love this point here from Jeffrey. We needed an honest coach for a long, long time. We do. And I think getting a guy like Torts, I think it's perfect. And, they need a guy who's going to be honest. And, I don't think any of these guys are going to be in trouble. Like Konechny, I think he might be able to work with TK in a better role. I don't know. Like, I don't agree. Like, I just feel like it's such an old narrative. And I know, it's like, oh, well, he's not good with the young. Like, I'm just willing to give the guy a chance. It seems like nobody's really giving him a chance. There's not much that's kind of going on where it's, it's getting. It seems like it's everybody's just kind of attacking him for the way he used to be. And I'm going to read a quote from Pierre-Luc Dubois, who everybody kind of thought that had left because of Tortorella and requested to get a trade because of Torts, right? And when you look at this, and again, I'm going to read this to you. I feel like it's different because there's different areas of this. And there's different reasons why players might not want to be at a certain spot that they are. And we've seen it before. Look, we've seen players tweet different things about how they don't necessarily want Torts or not want Torts, but they don't think it's a good hire or they don't think it's a smart decision or anything like that, right? My thing is this. I don't necessarily look at, what Matthew Barnaby is saying because I don't even know the last time the guy played for Tortorella, right? It's probably a long time ago. I'm going to look up Matthew Barnaby right now as I'm doing this live because, again, I don't even remember the last time that he played for Tortorella, and I would assume it's probably with the Rangers. Tampa a little bit. Yeah. Tampa Bay, it seems like. So again, that's in, like 2000, 2001, 2002. So look, like there's that. Okay. You have Brendan Dubinsky, who obviously didn't necessarily agree with it either. He puts the tweet prayers for all Flyers players, that whole kind of thing. Like, I'm just kind of at the point where it's like, give the guy a chance. I mean, he's had to have changed over the years. And it's not like he's not as fiery. Again, that's part of him. It's not like that's going to completely go away, but I'm willing to give the guy a chance. I mean, look, I think everybody kind of knows too. This isn't the only thing that this Flyers team needed. They needed to hit on the coach, and I think this is the right type of coach that they needed for this. Whether you think it's long term, short term, whatever, I think this is the right kind of guy that they needed. Tocchet as an assistant, I don't think that's going to be anything. I don't think Tocchet is honestly, I don't really think Tocchet wants to come here, if I'm being honest with you. Totally ready to give Torts a chance. What are they going to be worse? Kind of hard to do that. Yes, it is. It would be very hard to do that. Like everybody says, tank for Bedard, like it's that easy. I'm just like, I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't think anyone wants to go through this again. A lot of players like playing for him. 100% agree. I think like Atkinson, he puts out the tweet, like he says, like, let's effing go with a bunch of exclamation points after they get him. Like, and again, Jeffrey, he's going to have a hard job. He's going to have a very tough job, and it's going to be a hard thing to kind of figure out. How do the Flyers kind of shape this. And look, a lot of pressure is going to be put on not just Torts, but on the team, because it's a team that is really needs a turnaround quick. And when you look at this right now, it's tough. But like people have said Frost. I think Frost is fine. Frost is one of the more positive players from this past season, especially towards the end of the year. Was playing great hockey. He was really good on that line with Noah Cates and Owen Tippett. And again, I think they're going to be fine. Like, I am not really worried about this at all, especially with the young guys. I think they're going to be okay. But again, look, we are moving on a little bit here. So obviously there's been some other talk as well of just, different coaches in different areas. Obviously Bruce Cassidy going to Vegas. And then, there's been, other coaches too, like Peter DeBoer has been rumored to go to Dallas. So that was kind of the thing. He was also a finalist for the Flyers. So I would like to think that DeBoer goes to Dallas. I did not want Peter DeBoer, like I mentioned a little bit ago. I think that was more of kind of very similar to AV, and I think he would have helped the team, but for how long is kind of the same thing. But I think it's different with Torts. As for just, the overall, the finalists as well, like Capuano, and again, I wanted to touch on Capuano again. Like, I don't think he would have been horrible, but I would have been very confused if they were to hire Capuano with all of the other candidates that were available, and better coaches for that matter. It would have been very, very weird to me. Mr. Twitzer, it's a shame we won't get the train wreck that would have been Jake and Torts. That's that's very true. You would have had Jake and Torts, and they're two guys that are very upfront. So I think it would have been funny, and I think it would have been really, really, really funny to see. Torts really looks young D and a goalie. Get ready to play a lot. York at Hart definitely could be. Honestly, I'm curious to see how the Flyers kind of mold the roster now, because again, in this article from Anthony Sanfilippo that I mentioned, and again, I'm not harping on Anthony. I'm not saying, he's wrong, and I don't like to harp on his reporting or anything, like, because I think he does do a good job. I think he mentioned something in here about basically, that Chuck didn't necessarily want Torts because it's going to be like, because molding the roster, Torts likes to have a say in kind of how they mold the team. And he didn't necessarily want that to happen again, because that's kind of how they did it with AV. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. Like, again, I heard it was Chuck's hire. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think that this is much of an issue either. But if I'm being honest, I'm not really concerned about it, if this is, just if this is more of a Chuck hire or anybody. Like, again, I feel like the third party kind of thing, like, as embarrassing as it might sound, like, it's tough to go back and look at it and be like, okay, well, they had to have a third party, right, to come in here. But my thing is, if you needed a third party, I think it's more of just like a confirmation kind of thing. Look, I don't have an issue with it, because it's like, they wanted to get the best hire, and they said that. But again, when things like that start to happen. But again, let's move on from the Flyers for a minute now. Again, I think I'm excited too. I think there's a lot of different things, but one thing I meant to mention last episode was comparing some contracts, and it was actually Jack Roslovic with Columbus. If you look at his contract, he signed it a couple weeks ago, and I meant to mention this last episode, but I ended up going off topic for a little bit, and I kind of got sidetracked. But Roslovic, he signed 2 years, $4 million. And I could see that being a similar deal to Frost and Tippett. Now, if you're looking just at cap friendly alone, if you look at cap friendly, there are a couple of RFAs that the Flyers have to sign. Frost, McEwen, and Tippett. Thompson is the UFA. So those are only the forwards that they have to sign. Again, there aren't really many UFAs that will be coming back anyway. Those are most likely the main three guys that they will be re-signing. I don't think Thompson will be back, and things like that as well. But again, if you're just looking at Frost, McEwen, I think the Flyers could give Frost and Tippett similar deals to Roslovic. Now, same term, but less money. I think Frost could probably get $2 million. If Frost wasn't injured this past year, and again, he's on track to be right at the same spot, I think if you give him a similar deal to what I was kind of just mentioning, I think that's fine. And look, as for Tippett, I think you might be able to kind of give him something similar, maybe 2.5, maybe 3. I'd like to think Tippett's 2.5. Frost is probably at 2. Again, I don't think, because again, you're kind of betting on yourself with both players, and both players are betting on themselves, and the Flyers are kind of betting on them too. It's like, okay, it's kind of like a show me deal. Is kind of what I'm thinking here for these guys, because they've shown it, but can they do it consistently? And now you have a new coach in here and all this different stuff. So we'll see how it works, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. But again, I do think that these guys are going to be. I think these players are going to be good. And one guy that I'm really curious to see who could play well under Torts is Noah Cates. Because, and I was just thinking about this now, just looking at his name, like Cates is a guy that coaches love him, and they love guys like that. And I think he could be he could really blossom under Tortorella, because he could trust him, give him some ice time. Let me know what you guys think. If you kind of think that's a similar thing, is with Cates. Could Cates kind of, do you think Cates could blossom under Torts? Again, I do think Cates could make the team, and I think he honestly will make the team going into training camp next year. But again, I think overall, like, he is a guy that I think could blossom. And I'm not worried about younger guys. But again, look, the Flyers have been rumored in some, not really some trade targets or anything like that, but there's been talk of Alex DeBrincat. And I saw something the other day that was DeBrincat for, it was like I think it was like the first, like the 5th round pick, or excuse me, not the 5th round pick, the number 5 pick. And I'm completely drawing a blank. Oh, Joel Farabee, that's what it was. I'm thinking to myself, like, I mean, like, I actually had it on earlier when I was mowing the lawn. I had a Farabee t-shirt on earlier, now I have Carter Hart. After I took a shower after I was done the lawn, and I was just, it's so hot outside. It's absolutely putrid. It's so humid. But anyway, that's totally off topic. Again, like, oh, Arctic Flux, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Look, I think DeBrincat I'd be perfectly fine with. But my question is, why would Chicago want to move on from him? Like, I know you can get assets and you can get all these different guys, but my thing is kind of just like, I don't necessarily think that, I just don't know how much the Flyers are going to want to give up. And, I know that they have to make some moves, and they have to go out and get some of these players. Little off topic, if we can't get Johnny Hockey, would you consider Forsberg? Yes, I would, but I don't think that's going to be very easy, and I think he most likely will be going to a different team. I don't think he makes a team, honestly, but I assume you're saying, Phantom 28, why don't you think he makes a team? I'm curious. Noah Cates was like the only one winning all his puck battles in the corners. I'll put him on the team 100%. I think he definitely could be on the team next year. I don't think I don't think they traded Farabee either. I think it's so stupid to even consider trading Farabee. I think he's one of the gems that they've gotten in the draft in recent years. He's one of the players that has really played well. At times, I mean, look, he's been a little, I guess you could say, inconsistent. But again, I do think overall, I just feel like most of kind of what this is going to be is, trying to get rid of money and also trying to free up space, but not giving away too much not trying to give away too much talent, but also being able to bring in some more talent by not getting rid of everything that you have, which is going to be tough because they're in such a flat cap world. And obviously, you don't want to give away half of your roster just to add in all of these top players because you'll probably be, similar in scoring and all of that different stuff. But again, will Cam be captain now? I don't think so. I'd like to think it's probably Couturier. But let's take a break, and we will be back after this little video here from SeatGeek. All right, so we are interrupting the show for a minute to talk about SeatGeek. SeatGeek, as you know, has sponsored me for actually a while now. Great service to get tickets. Now, again, if you're wondering, if you want to try to get some save some money, if you're curious on what tickets are around, who's coming to Philly, if it's a concert or a baseball game, even when the Flyers come back to play, SeatGeek is a great way to get tickets and to save yourself some money. They have provided me with a code that can get you $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more on tickets. You can either do this through the website, if you were to just look it up through a internet browser, whether it's Google, anything like that, or on the app. You can add it to the app, and it'll take $20 off the first order, $50 or more. The code is Flyers Fan Mania in all capital letters that you see on the screen here. And again, SeatGeek is really easy to use. I've used it myself when buying tickets. Again, and this is even before they were sponsoring the show. I've used it myself. They're great. They have everything listed. It's very easy to use. You go on, you search, just like you see on the screen here. You search, you look through, you go on the seating chart. And on that seating chart, they rate these deals from 0 to 10. That's what all those dots are. And the green are great deals. The yellow, they're good. Red, not so much. Probably you're paying more money. So you want to stay in the green, right? So if you can find a good deal, use that green dot to kind of navigate. They have so many different things that you can check if you need wheelchair accessibility, or if you want seats on the glass if it's a hockey game, or if you want to sit in the pit at a concert, whatever. There's so many different things. There's so many things that you can check on the app and things like that. But again, SeatGeek is sponsoring the channel and the podcast now. And again, they are awesome. And make sure you go check them out. And you can save yourself some money on some tickets when the Flyers come back around in October. All right, we are back. One quick thing that I also do want to mention: the Stanley Cup Finals are on. Before we get into the Nick Schultz interview, the Cup Finals, right? And look, Game 1, and Tampa ends up beating the Rangers in Game 6. It was a great game. That was back and forth. Shesterkin was great, and the Rangers get the tying goal from Vetrano in a game where they didn't play great. And look, right after they score, and I'm just like, that's it. The game's over. And I know it was such a hard fought series, but the Rangers had to win Game 3. And I know I kind of did go off a little bit off topic, a little bit there at the end. But one quick thing I also did want to mention, this comment here about Torts. At least with Torts, we'll see some emotion when the team 100% agree. That is one thing. He'll be honest. He'll be upfront. There'll be a lot of different things that kind of come around. We're still getting some more people in here. Again, any questions, comments, concerns about Tortorella, anything like that, you can drop that down below and I will answer. But again, this comment here, I want to see Torch try and fight another coach like Lavi did. That would be really funny, and I think that it would definitely get the fans going. I think the last time I ever saw a really like a real legit brawl was Ray Emery. And if that were to happen again, that would be absolutely insane. But again, going back to the Stanley Cup Finals, again, the Rangers end up losing to Tampa Bay in Game 6, and Game 1 was really good. You get the overtime winner from Burakovsky. There was a lot of good things. Tampa gets better as Tampa has always gotten better as the series has gone on. They've also gotten better as the game has gone on as well. Game 1 was great. I 100% agree. Game 1 was really good, and I saw bits and pieces. I think there were different things. I had work that night. I wanted to actually go back and watch the full game. I still actually might do that before tomorrow night for Game 2. But again, like I thought that was a great, great game, and there was a lot of good things that kind of came out of it. And look again, I think for most part for the Cup final, like I have Colorado in 7, and I think they're I don't think they're deeper than Tampa. I think they're right there though. Um, Tampa knows how to win. And if the Avs have a chance to close it out early, they have to close it out early. We've seen Tampa be able to come back, and we have seen in recent years Colorado has kind of fallen apart a little bit at times. Not in every series, but at certain times. Um, I feel like at the most part, I like Colorado because of their speed. Tampa has the better goaltender. I think both teams both have an electric power play. I think there's a lot of good things that kind of come out of both teams. Whether it's look, they have the stars, they got the goaltending, and it's not like Kemper's not a good goalie. Kemper's a really good goalie. This ticker at the top is so weird, but with how many people are in here, it's going from like 10 to 17 and back up, and it's really confusing me. But again, like I really do like Colorado. I mean, Tampa Bay is unbelievable to watch, and like the Kale McCarr Devontae's pairing is the best pairing in the National Hockey League. I 100% agree with Jeff Marek. He said that before. I 100% agree. Like that pairing is insane. And just the way McCarr skates, and he's one of my favorite players to watch. Adam Fox is up there as well. I know I'll get crap for that, but Fox is a guy that I absolutely love to watch. I mean, he skates well. He knows how to play. Again, one quick thing going back to the Flyers here. Was Torts your first choice or was it Trotz? I at first wanted Trotz, but my second choice would have been fine if it was Torts. How do I think they approach free agency now that they have Torts? I kind of feel like it's going to be like I think I'd like to think both guys kind of have a hands-on approach, both Chuck and Torts. But let's take a minute here. Let's get into the Nick Schultz interview. We talked about a lot of different stuff. I asked Nick kind of how it's been with him. Kind of covering the team, or not, excuse me, not covering the team, but being with the team, covering the team. That's what I do. About Nick with him being on the bench and being upstairs and all of that different stuff. Yeah, I thought it was a great interview. I thought, Nick's always been good to me. I think he's a great guy. He actually was I actually really liked Nick Schultz when he played for the Flyers for a little bit. But let's get into the interview. Obviously, from being behind the bench and also being with the Flyers player development for the last handful of years, kind of, how has it been for you? I guess kind of in the last handful of years, kind of doing everything. I know obviously we talked before. If anybody remembers, I did interview Nick. I believe that was I think last June, pretty much around last time this year.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And, from there, kind of how has it been since the last time we talked? And obviously you were behind the bench a little bit for the Flyers. Kind of how was that? And, obviously the season didn't go as planned, but, just talk about the experience for yourself.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I've enjoyed being a part of the player development staff here and helping out with the young guys. Like I mentioned before, we love the area here and love where we are and raising our family here. So it was nice when Chuck got hired and asked if I'd come in and help on the player development side. So I got a chance to work with some of the young guys, prospects in college and down with Lehigh. So that's been enjoyable. And when this opportunity came up to help out with everything that kind of went on when AV and Mike Terrian were let go, it was it was nice for myself to get that experience and get an opportunity. Like you mentioned, obviously it wasn't a great season, but like everyone, you gotta learn from your opportunities, and I think this year our team, everyone in general, has had to learn from what went on and get better. But for myself, it was a nice opportunity to get involved and kind of be on the coaching side, which is fun as an ex-player. You kind of look for something you want to do and enjoy. And I've got a chance to coach my son for 5 years. You kind of get that love for the for coaching and being involved. And if when you can't play anymore, it's nice. It's the next best thing. So it's nice to be around the guys and be able to help out and, you know, get this kind of franchise, you know, where it should be. So.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, obviously you just talked about, you know, learning from opportunity. I kind of felt like that kind of seemed like it was the main thing that everybody kind of was looking for from the Flyers kind of towards the end of the year. Obviously, after the first 10-game losing streak and then a couple wins, and then it kind of just went downhill from there. At that point, you know, how would you say that the guys kind of rallied around that? Because obviously it's such a tough kind of thing, especially when you lose so many games and you lose a coach. And obviously, you know, many different guys ended up playing. I think they ended up having 42 players play throughout the year. But outside of, you know, from what you've seen in younger players, guys like Frost, Noah Cates, Owen Tippett coming here from the trade, like, you know, how did you kind of see those guys kind of learn from the opportunity and kind of seize that?
Yeah, there's a lot of great young talent coming. I think that's the bright side. You can kind of see from when Chuck and Brent took over here with that draft class with Yorkie and Bobby Brink and Ronnie Adder from that class. And, you know, Tyson obviously was injured this year, but he's a you know, big part of the future, you know, coming forward and stuff. And Kate, see some of these guys from the drafts before that Hexie did a good job with. And, you know, Lashinsky and Allison, some of these guys that were hurt, right? So I think it kind of trickled down from the top guys being injured with Coots and Ellis to some of these other guys that were kind of up and coming as well, right? But like you mentioned at the end of the year with getting Tip in for G and some of these guys, you can see that young talent, and you see these teams that build at Colorado right now from when they first hired their coaches from being dead last in the league to being in the Stanley Cup Finals now, right? And obviously they have some high-end top picks that they got that they're able to build their team around. But I think that's kind of essentially how you got to get better as an organization, as a franchise, is build around these young players and draft well, and the, you know, the veteran guys you have as well, you know. So I think it's got to be a good mix, but you really have to in the cap world now build around these young players and really establish your core group and make sure these guys are developing and getting better. So like you mentioned, these guys got a great opportunity at the end of the season to play in the organization to see kind of what they have moving forward and you know, in the planning process, getting ready for next year.
No, for sure. I think you really touched on a great point with everything kind of going on in the cap world. You know, we kind of see everything that kind of came out yesterday with the you know, the latest meetings with Gary Bettman and everything that's kind of going on. But going off of that, I know you mentioned Claude Giroux and obviously the trade, and his last game was obviously very emotional. There was a lot of things that honestly that might have been. I was in attendance for that one. That was one of the loudest times I've ever been in that building, outside of like obviously like playoff games. How was that, like that whole experience? Because obviously it was a great game. Flyers ended up rallying back and winning. But again, just kind of talk about how that game was and how, you know, how special it was for G to kind of get that last game.
Yeah, I think with his career that he had as a Flyer is pretty impressive, right? For how long he's been in Philadelphia and how he plays. The biggest thing with G, obviously everyone knows how talented he is, but he's just a big competitor. You know, he hates to lose and he goes out and plays hard every single night. Guys, you know, having a chance to play with them and working with him this year and stuff, you know, guys love being around him and he puts in the work in practice, off ice, in the games. And I think it was just, you know, for him to be able to hit 1,000 games and, you know, that night, like you mentioned, it was a big win and stuff. And you could feel that atmosphere in the building. I think the appreciation that the fans had for G and his career here as a Flyer, right? I mean, he gave it his all every night, and it's tough when you're the captain, you're the guy, you know, looked upon and have to answer the questions after every game. I mean, he's in a tough spot. I mean, I give those guys a lot of credit. They got to produce offensively. They got to, you know, lead. They got to do everything kind of. So you know, it's a tough spot and hard when the team wasn't doing well. But he's you know, a true professional, and he, you know, represented the Flyers for a long time and did a great job at it. So it's nice to see him, you know, have that game and the team get a big win and have that, you know, that excitement in the building again.
No, for sure. I mean, that was, again, like I said, that was one of the probably one of the best games in recent seasons. Obviously, the last handful of years being with COVID and all that stuff, but I mean, it was a great game. It was a great ceremony. I thought the Flyers did a great job, kind of putting everything together as well. But just kind of going back to what we were talking about before, kind of back right when you started, kind of going behind the bench and things like that. Obviously, the environment is tough, because losing a coach obviously isn't the thing that anybody wants to go through. Um, how would you kind of say the environment was, and what were some of the things that you were trying to do to kind of keep everybody kind of upbeat and positive?
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, it's not. You're in the profession of winning games, and it comes down to producing and winning games, and ultimately that wasn't happening, right? And it didn't.
Right.
Even with the change and stuff, it didn't. Obviously, there's a lot of factors coming back from Christmas and stuff. There was the whole COVID situation they went through, lost a couple players.
Yeah.
It seemed like every other day, and with with a couple of your top guys, if you lose your top forward, top D, it makes it tough. And I think we just got to the point where you needed to keep kind of building the culture, building the team with the young players, the veteran guys that you had there, and realize that things need to change, right? Need to get better, and that comes right from the top down, from the coaches, players, everyone kind of doing a better job. So from my standpoint, I just wanted to help with guys there, with each individual, their individual games and what they could do better, and from a team standpoint and stuff. I think it's beneficial. Some guys, you see more and more guys now, ex-players, that are getting involved in coaching and stuff, and I think it goes a long way when you can relate to the players and you can kind of get through to these guys, and they know that you've gone through what they're going through, and it's not always easy, even though you're pretty fortunate to play a sport for a living. But when you go through years like that, it's not fun for anybody to be involved, right? So I think you try to work with these guys and make sure that they're looking at the big picture. And it wasn't a great year, but we got to learn from experiences we had this past season, and what you have to do to get better, individually and as a team for everybody to get kind of back on track. So
Right, for sure. And I think that's the main thing, is kind of getting everybody kind of back on track. Nick, if you were to look at it yourself, how do you think this team can kind of build a new identity? Obviously, it's been kind of, I wouldn't say it's not there anymore, but it's definitely been lost a little bit. And it's not necessarily the same kind of Flyers style like we're used to. How would you say that you kind of think that the Flyers could maybe kind of try to build something around these new players and all that stuff?
yeah, I think it comes from your mix of players. Every team's going to be different how you build your identity, right? And a lot of that comes from your players and who you have. So I mean, I started my career in Minnesota. We were an expansion team. Jacques Maher was our coach, and the only way we had a chance to win is if we played a defensive system, and we trapped and we played that way. Otherwise, we had no opportunity to beat some high flying teams, right? So depending on your personnel, on your players, is how you kind of build your identity and your structure and how you're gonna play as a team. And I think the biggest thing is kind of getting that defensive structure back, getting that the system where you're really dialed in, you're really locked in. When you don't have the puck, how are we going to play when we don't have the puck? So, and then we can win the puck and get it back. And then now what are we doing when we get the puck, so we can hang on to it and have it? We're not just defending all night. We're not just
Right.
in our end the whole game, right? So I think that comes from your personnel, comes from getting all that stuff in place, and the players really believing it and buying in. And I think if you have success, then players believe in it. And if you don't, if you're losing, then it's hard, right? It's hard for guys to believe in it and buy in. So you got to establish that early, how you're going to play, how you're going to be as a team, and then you got to have success. You got to have guys buy in and understand that it works. And if everybody's on the same page, I think regardless of your system, every team plays similar systems. It's not like you can reinvent the wheel. It's pretty simple. It's you got to go and play hard and play as a team, and those are the ones that seem to have the most success, the teams that buy into what the coach is preaching and how they need to play and to be successful. So
No, for sure. And again, I love that answer, because it's obviously Chuck Fletcher's kind of said similar about that clearly that they're defending too much. And obviously one of the biggest problems this year is not being able to score. So again, I loved your answer there. Just kind of taking it back to right now. Obviously, Stanley Cup Finals are on. The Avalanche winning Game 1 last night. Have you watched any of the playoffs? Have you had a pick for the Cup Final yet?
It's been good. Yeah, it's been exciting. Obviously, if it's on, yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, there's a lot of great teams. The first round, it's fun to watch when there's hockey every night. There's multiple games. It kind of, winds down now a little bit with just the finals on. But yeah, it was good game. It's tough on the East Coast when the late start times. I'll tell you that. I'm ready for bed in a lot of them. But but yeah, I watched first couple periods last night. They're entertaining. It's good hockey. It's fun to watch. There's two, obviously very good teams with Tampa trying to go for a three-peat, in Colorado, kind of the new up and coming team, right? With a lot of their young talent and kind of what they've been through. And like I said, it was a process for them from 5 years ago, and they brought that staff in there and kind of developed and added to different pieces there and where they're at now. So it's fun. It's going to be a good series. It's nice. Personally, I'd love to see someone new win Tampa with the last couple cups or whatever, but ultimately, it's pretty special if someone can win 3 in a row. So I think for the game right now, it's great. The Rangers, how they being a big market team and everything on the East Coast, I think was great as well. So it's been a good playoffs. It's been fun to watch and see where all these teams are at.
Yeah, it has. It's been a really good playoffs. But again, Nick, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it so much. I hope you're doing well. And again, I'll talk to you soon.
For sure. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Wish you the best of luck with everything you're doing. It's fun to have people behind the team and just, we know how much everyone loves and supports the team around here. And now we got to get her back heading in the right direction. So good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we are back. As you just hear from Nick Schultz. Again, I seriously, I can't thank Nick enough. He's great. We actually tried to kind of get that months ago, actually. But again, end of the season was perfect. And again, I thought he had some great answers just about the team defensively and all of that different stuff. But let's get into a couple callers here before we talk about the John Tortorella press conference, which will be going live in a handful of minutes here. But let's get into a couple of callers now. Yeah. So, yeah, like for rebuilding, I would just say, like, I think if there's anything that rebuilding, look, I kind of feel like if it's any, can't hear the message. Sorry about that. Let me. Curious to why that is the issue. Let me figure that out. I'm gonna play it again, see if it's. Is that better? Yeah, so look, I do apologize for that. I'm not too sure why that's the case. The question was, can the Flyers kind of, if they can kind of rebuild this quicker, and why it's been a problem. But look, like I kind of feel like it's harder to do it when it's signing and other things like that. Again, like I kind of feel like overall, I think the Flyers are going to be fine if they're able to do this the right way and be able to get the right money, and if they can move out the right contracts at the same time. Um, but let's take another call here. Again, I do apologize for that. I'm not sure why that was the issue. It wasn't like that the last time. But let's see how it sounds here. Yeah, so that was basically asking if the Flyers, if there's any type of, um, any kind of salary, if there's any kind of type of salary that they could shed. Look, I think overall, if you're going to shed salary, um, I think if anything, it's going to be you're going to have to try to move on from guys like JVR. You're going to want to try to move that contract. If it's a guy like Lindblom, same thing. You're going to want to be able to try to move Lindblom's contract as well. It's very it's tough because again it's tough because when you have an issue where you don't have that much money, it's harder to kind of do that because they're going to have to try to move out as much money as possible. And if you can't do that with trying to find the right team, trying to find the right team to load off money to, because again, they're going to need as much cap space as possible at the same time. So again, like the Flyers are going to, they're going to need as much money as possible to just make this team better, but also just on the upfront talent, etc. Like that area of it, that's when they're going to need more of the money to try to get the best players possible. So a guy like Gaudreau is probably going to get more money, things like that. So again, if you're looking at it in the way that the Flyers are going to try to do this, I think the number one thing is just trying to get as much money as possible. So top three candidates for trade. I'd like to think again, JVR, Lindblom is one. Um, look, I don't know. Like I kind of feel like if it's any of these guys, I'd like to think it would have to JVR's contract has to go. Like that is one of them. Lindblom is another because again, you're getting into the point where it's like they don't really know how to play him. And when you're dealing with things like that, and if it's a guy that you don't really know how to play, or if it's just a tougher situation, then if I'm the Flyers, I'm trying to move out as much money as possible. Lindblom's at a pretty good contract at $3 million, so that's probably the best bet. But let's take one more caller here to kind of finish this one off before we get into the live part of John Tortorella's press conference. That one was a little tough to hear, and I know I'm still having the tech issue. I'm not really sure what the issue is. I do apologize about that. But again, the question was, who do you think the Flyers are going to take in this draft, and kind of where could they take them, depending on the position? If it's a defenseman, I'm going Jiricek. If it is, or Nemec, you could go Jiricek or Nemec. If you are looking just in general, if Kemel's available, I'd go for Kemel. If there are other players there, then I think that's fine as well. But if nobody if nobody's really available outside of the defenseman, if it's mainly the defenseman, I think the Flyers will go defense. And again, I've mentioned this before, they do need a defenseman. So I think the defenseman would be perfect. But we are getting closer here towards the start of the live stream for John Tortorella. It is 2:00 now, and it looks like they are about to go live. So I will transfer this over now for everybody to hear for Torts. So I am having a tech issue. I'm going to have to end the broadcast and then restart it. So just give me one moment.